from a coaching standpoint, is I could never put heart and passion in a player, but I can get him to go to class.
Hey, welcome back to the OGs podcast with the original OG, UD. Happy to be here with Coach, man. Coach, we wouldn't be where we're at without you. He's a two-time NCAA national champion back-to-back, six-time SEC champion coach, and now the head coach of Chicago Bulls. Appreciate you. Who would have thought 25 years ago that we'd be sitting here doing 25? This? And guess what? He's about to get his jersey retired next month. He's old. He's out of the league now. But we appreciate you coming in, man. Like, a lot of this stuff is, we've been able to tell stories even off, but as we get into this, it's going to be a lot of fun just kind of talking about where we're at and where we came from. But, that team that we put together at University of Florida, you took something that was, to me, when I came down here, I never even thought Florida could get to where it was. Never in a million years would have thought it'd be where it's at now. And you started that. I mean, obviously there's a lot of people that had hands on deck, but they brought in a young coach, and we were blessed to be able to play for you, man. And I think we're just thankful you're on here and that what you did for us in our careers.
Well, listen, I love both of you to death. And, it's crazy thinking it back, that long. I'll never forget it. Anthony Grant, obviously strong tie to Miami High, played there, friends with Frank Martin and Shaky Rodriguez. And Brent Wright was like our first guy we signed. Him and Major Parker. And obviously Udonis was a junior, and we really had kind of zeroed in on him. And then obviously Teddy DuPay was, up at Mariner, Ladarius Holton.
LD.
But, the one thing we really felt like is we had to do a great job recruiting the state of Florida. But you coming out, when I saw you play as a sophomore in high school, I'm like, this guy could help change the whole complexion. And I think John Pelfrey and I watched you play maybe 26 straight days in July. And stop chasing you all over the place.
I can believe it.
But the thing that was interesting is you guys say that, but I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for you guys, because you guys were the ones. And Mike, I always remembered, like in the recruiting process, you always said, I want to put my footprints in a place that hasn't been done yet, and to leave Mitchell, South Dakota, where you could have played anywhere in the country, to come to Florida to play, changed the entire program altogether. And I knew what this guy was about, just with Udonis being at Miami High, but just the way he competed and the way he won state championships and stuff. And I think that recruiting class, along with Brent and Major, you guys, for the history of the program, changed it and got it started. And you guys were the ones that really sparked and generated us being able to recruit the Joakims and the Owls and the Corey Brewers and the Torian Green. So makes me feel old when you guys say 25 years, but I mean, to think about what you guys did in 2 years, changing the program. Because my first 2 years at Florida, we had 2 losing seasons. You guys come in, we go to the Sweet 16, have a chance to go to the Elite Eight, and then the next year, you guys are playing for a national championship, so it's a tribute to what you guys committed to.
Well, I had no idea what he was about, and I almost wanted to reconsider my options of going there after the first time.
You tried to dunk on me in
practice. First time we played pickup. No, it wasn't practice, it was pickup. I just got on campus.
Well, you tried to dunk on me.
Well, what happened? You almost killed me.
No dunking. I'm old. You're the old school, no dumping. You remember the old school pickup rules. You don't let nobody dunk on you, man.
Yeah. But I ain't gonna lie to you.
What you was thinking, but then I realized that I always got sent home. You the franchise. Cowboys stuff. I was like, I can't hurt him, man. I can't hurt killer. But no, I will say this though, Coach. One thing I will say is that, with everything that was going on with the Miami High ties with Coach Frank Martin and all that, but you still took the time to come down and you just didn't put it on the relationship of other guys. It could have been easy to say, okay, Frank, Coach Grant. We got that locked in. But you remember coming down to
Oh,
Miami?
listen, I used to hang out at Three Fingers all the time, late at night. They were
First of all,
passing,
it's called Three Fingers
they
Lounge.
were
It's
passing
called
40
Three
ounces
Fingers.
through the window.
Yes, sir. Three Fingers Lounge.
Yeah,
Coach B.
yes,
one
I
of
was
my
down
coaches,
there.
Coach B, used to own a little lounge.
Yes.
Called Three Fingers. First of all, that's
Yes,
nuts in
man.
itself.
I never forget it. I went by Brent Wright's house. He was the first guy we signed.
Yes.
And I mean, I had known Anthony when I was at Kentucky as an assistant, and I had known Shaky for a long time. And then Coach Bernard, who was there as the assistant. So I always came down, just because Anthony had relationships. I felt like I needed to get to know everybody else down here, and I always did that. But I never forget it. Went to Brent's house. His mailbox had like 4 bullet holes in it, So I was always walking around in Miami with the right crews to take care of me.
Yeah, you guys came down and visited me at my grandmother's house in Liberty City. Like, they actually spent the time. And that was the difference between the other coaches, that Coach Donovan. And then when I was fucking up, you came down and was like, listen, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to get you in with this shit. Like this.
I had to come down academically and sit there.
Right now, what's going on? I don't know if I'm gonna get you in. Like this, you got to get this shit together. This is not gonna work. So obviously, I figured it out. But I remember that. And also another thing that I remember was I had never met nobody from New York. He talked so fast. I don't know what he said, but I was like, I'm in. I'm in. I'm buying. Whatever the fuck he sold me, I'm in. Like, that shit was coming quick. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I believe.
No, he was elite at that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about coming from Marshall, where you were, and going to Florida. Obviously, it's hard to say you expected exactly what happened, but what was your expectations going to Florida at the time? Because obviously you're super young. And then, your relationship with Jay Will and some of that stuff, because to me, those are some of the best stories, obviously seeing his talent.
Oh, yeah, it was incredible. So the interesting thing, when I was an assistant coach at Kentucky, I'd gotten a call from a coach in West Virginia who told me about Jason Williams. And I invited him to Kentucky's basketball camp. And at that point in time, I was probably maybe 24, 25 years old. So I was still playing. And Jason and I developed a really, really great relationship. And we really had a need to bring in a starting point guard, and Jason was like...
This is at Kentucky?
At Kentucky.
Okay.
Jason was going into his senior year of high school. He was probably 6'1", 155 pounds, soaking wet. And I think it was the same year Jason Kidd was coming out and guys like that. So that's who we were recruiting. Oh, wow. And so Jason ended up signing to go to Providence, but Rick Barnes had left and went to Clemson, and so he ended up going to Fork Union Military Academy. And then when I went to Marshall, he came with me. But the thing that was interesting is, when I was at Kentucky as an assistant coach, the thing that amazed me in recruiting was once teams like Indiana and Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina got involved recruiting guys, schools would just stop recruiting them. Mm-hmm. They would just say, we can't get them, and they'd stop recruiting them. And I always felt like when I got to Florida, I didn't know what it would be, but I felt like I needed to recruit, and we needed to recruit the kind of players that I thought we needed to recruit that I respected and had great admiration for. The one thing I would say that was totally different from you two guys and a lot of guys is when you come down to Florida, there's a lot of distractions. Mm-hmm. You were totally driven to be great. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen a guy go from the most dominant low post player
no doubt.
In college basketball in his era.
The U-Dominator, that was what he's called.
To doing what he had to do physically. And I've always said this about you guys: throw you guys in any system and you guys will figure out how to impact winning. And I think that's what made you guys great. And, so I just wanted to identify that. And then, guys that love to play, toughness, competitiveness, and, guys that wanted to line up and work every day. And that's kind of how we started the recruiting. And those guys we identified, we really tried to recruit hard, and that's what we ended up doing.
I'm such a fan of Jay Will. That's one thing you can never say. That man would live in the gym.
He
still plays. He goes and plays at the rec game. When you saw him, when you brought him in at Marshall and stuff like that, what was it like? Holy shit! What is this? Because that's how I was the first time I saw him. Like, yo,
I ain't never seen
what's going on right now?
But I see the same thing when I saw you. I see the same thing when I saw you.
I'll give you a great story, right? So we're trying to recruit Jason Kidd, and it's funny when I see Jason Kidd, we talk about this sometimes. I'm trying to recruit Jason Kidd when I'm at Kentucky, and anyway, I've got to make this phone call to Jason Williams and say, Jason, listen, we're kind of going in a different direction, and it broke my heart because he and I had gotten close and had a really close relationship during that time. So I'll never forget it. You guys remember the Nike All-American camps that were in Jersey. You guys all played in them.
Yes.
So I'm sitting watching a game, and I'm with Coach Pitino and PJ Carlissimo. So PJ Carlissimo's talking to Coach Pitino about looking for a point guard. And Coach Pitino, obviously who I played for and was working for Kentucky at the time, says to me, hey, Billy, what's the name of that kid from West Virginia that we had at camp? I said, oh, Jason Williams. He said, he's a really, really good player. Peach, you should look at him. So I said, hey, Coach, I'm going over to that court if you want to go over and watch the game for me. So you know the way Jason plays. Behind the back, through the legs, everything else. So he's coming across half court, and he throws a behind the back pass to a guy that's not looking, and it goes through the lane, hits the back of the stanchion. And PJ Carlissimo looks at me and goes, are you trying to get me fired? But Jason, when I left, when I was at Marshall, I had him. I knew he had a chance to be a pro. I knew he had a chance. Right. One, he was incredibly driven. He loved the game. He was always in the gym. He was always eager to get better and just passionately loved the game. And I'll never forget it. When I left to go to Florida, I had a team meeting, and those moments are never great, especially when you're coaching guys. You're with a team. You never want to leave. So when I was leaving, he was waiting outside for me, and he grabbed me and says, I want to come with you. And I just said, Jason, you're from West Virginia. You're here to stay here. He says, nope, I want to come with you. So he ended up coming to Florida. And right when he was at Florida was when we started recruiting you guys. Yeah. And he was the one guy that we could maybe have to say, listen, if this guy's here for the next couple of years as a point guard, you guys will love playing with him. And I've always had enormous respect for Jason just all the way around.
He loved hoops so much, but not school so much. Tell us one of my favorite Jay Will stories of all time. Tell us that story about how he came into your office.
Jason, I knew Jason had a chance to be a pro, but I was also worried about him academically, right? And as Udonis said, he needed to get his act together academically, right? So Jason is not doing great in school. And I said, Jason, listen, every time you miss a tutor, you miss a class, you're late for something, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So sure enough, first day I get a phone call, missed his tutor. 6 o'clock in the morning, he's up running. Next day, it was late for class, 6 o'clock. And after about 5 days of this, he comes in my office and says, Coach, how about we just do this? How about I just get up every morning at 6 and run and never go to class? So like,
Listen, you remember when Billy called us in the office?
Oh, God.
Do you remember when you called me and Mike in the office? And you
Coach, I don't know if you remember this story.
Oh, the prima donna?
No, that's
not
a different
that one. What the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah. He calls us in, and me and UD are sitting outside the office, and we're thinking you're about to gas us up because we're freshmen. This is about the season start. Like, okay, it's our shit. We're going to go run this thing. We walk in there, and you look at us, and you said, UD, Mike, what the hell are y'all doing? I looked at UD and said, what are you doing, dog? I'm working my ass off.
I looked at him like,
he said, you got an F and F and D. And he started making everyone walk us to class. I say, your patience, I'm telling you, I was a college coach.
He literally said, if the season starts today,
you're not eligible.
I couldn't play either one of you motherfuckers. I couldn't play either one of you motherfuckers. If the season started today, I couldn't play either one of you motherfuckers.
I looked at him too. I said, what are you doing, dog? I'm working my ass off.
I mean, that's the first time I had left Miami. It was all different. It was a lot going on. So shit was moving fast for me. I was trying to figure it out.
I was from a town of 13,000. I didn't even know where I was at the time. But like that's to me, that's great coaching though, especially in college, is because, it's hard. The endurance of college coaching is hard. Like taking us and not just say, oh, don't worry about them. You took us and hey, now we're walking to class. You're signing into class. Like we righted the ship, and obviously we're thankful for that because we ended up being able to play. But that was interesting.
Well, the one thing I always felt like, from a coaching standpoint, is I could never put heart and passion in a player, but I can get him to go to class. Damn, Mike.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
You sure you can go to class?
I can get him to stay eligible.
Hey, listen.
But you know what I mean? Like you guys love to play.
You made him push the panic button?
He made me push the panic button. I started asking Matt Bonner, can I cheat? Matt was smart as shit. Matt had like a 5.0. Like you can't even get that. I was like, Matt, I need some help here. I just look over.
What did Matt say to you?
Motherfucker told me he helped me study. I say, Matt, you don't understand. You don't understand what I asked you.
I can study on my own.
I didn't ask you to help me fucking study. Like, motherfucker, I asked you to let me get off your paper. Like,
yeah.
He didn't let me get it off his paper. So.
No, but
shout out to Matt though.
You guys were not going to fail because of academics. You guys were too smart anyway. But you guys, your guys' drive and passion to compete and play and win was as good as anybody I've ever been around, right? And, clearly both of you guys want to play in the NBA, so let's be honest. If you get a degree and you walk out of college, You're not making the same amount of money as you are as a rookie in the NBA. Like, I understand
say it again
that.
for the people in the back, though. Just say it again for the people in the back. I mean, listen, I'm not knocking education. I'm not knocking a degree. But when I graduated, well, I didn't graduate. When I left college and I started to see a lot of people that I went to school with that graduated, I'm like, how the fuck are you working at the kiosk in the mall? Like, I was in class with you. Like, I saw you do your work. I saw you take care of your business. Like, why don't you have like the job that you deserve? And I started realizing like it was who you know, the connections that you have. A lot of those things come to play, but it's not always about just going to get that degree. So that's why when I last game, I kind of left and went to spend. You remember when I was the last game? I was like, I'm gonna go work out with Mike.
You came to live with me.
I literally came to work out and left.
No, and listen. You guys have a unique skill set and unique ability that your guys' careers are based on your bodies, right? And the bottom line is you're given a gift and a blessing to be able to play the game, and that's your course of making money. And listen, I think your family was very, very proud getting a degree, and you've worked towards it. So, and getting it, like, that's important to have. I'm not, to your point, diminishing, but your degree was not going to generate the amount of income that you guys were able to generate through playing the game of basketball.
That's a perfect segue, too, because you see it now. Obviously, you're on the NBA side of things doing what you do, but this NIL stuff, right? Like, most importantly, what would me and Udonis made from you and NIL? But two, though, like what you say is right.
Man,
because
Coach, you wouldn't have been able to handle me. I'd have showed up like Dion, gold chains and Cadillacs and shit. You wouldn't have been able to stop me.
But I mean, like, it's a back and forth thing, because you give my son's doing, all these kids are doing, like, you give a kid $200, $300, sometimes $1 million bucks. Like, it's hard to coach at one, but at the same time, they also, like, not everyone's going to make it. So we talked about before we got on here, like, some of these guys will walk away with $1 million in the bank, and that's their protection because of what they did. So it's hard. What are your thoughts on the NIL and what it looks like? I mean, I know you're not in it, but
I wish I knew more about it, because I obviously being removed from it. But I would just say this: the one thing that I don't like about the NIL is I have always felt that you guys, while you're in college, should be taken care of with the amount of money that gets generated through athletics. So I think we're all in agreement on that. It probably should have happened a long time ago. Yeah. My issue with the NIL is I think you're teaching kids a really, really bad precedent that you can go over here and make this amount of money, and then you're not happy and pick up and go somewhere else. When you go to the NBA, you take a job and you sign a contract, you're under contract. You know what I mean? And I just don't know how much that's helping guys, because what happens if one of these guys does get drafted, whether it be in the NFL or the NBA, and they sign a 4-year deal, and they're not happy in the situation, not getting ready to play? They can't leave.
No doubt.
And I think that you've got to be able to work your way through some adversity and difficulty sometimes to find out a little bit more about yourself. And the way it's set up is there's no resiliency of going through anything that's difficult and tough in life, because it's like, you know what? I'm making $300,000 here, but I can pick up and go over here and make this, and I can go do that. And I don't know necessarily if that's the best thing. And I'm not begrudging anybody for making anything financially, but when you get into the real world and you sign contracts, you're going to have to be responsible to those to a certain extent.
And like in the NBA, like you talked about it, like you sign a contract and you're disgruntled or you don't like it there, they trade you. You don't have a choice where you're going.
That's right.
Huge difference. Here now they're allowed to go, and they're giving these guys two, 3 times. Again, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I wouldn't want to be making the decisions, but it is something that needs to be fixed.
No, like you can go in as a player and say, listen, I don't think this is a good situation. I want to be traded, whatever, and they trade you, but you may not have any, like to your point, any idea where you're going. And sometimes in college, these guys say, well, I don't want to go there. They're picking where they want to go, and they're making money. So again, I don't have a problem with the money part of it. I just wonder how much resiliency and toughness. Because like the thing about it is these guys all want to get to the NBA, and you guys know and have played a long time and have played against the best. The level of competitiveness and talent and greatness at this level is incredible. And if you don't have some level of resiliency and mental and physical toughness and endurance, it's hard to survive. Forget about your talent and your skill. You are going to have to deal with, I've always said this, the one thing about NBA players is they know what it's like to go kill somebody. They know what it's like to get their butt kicked in. They know everything. They've seen it all, experienced it all. And rookies just don't always walk in and it goes easy. I mean, there are some dark days for those guys, and it's long years.
Yes, I mean, and it goes, and also the transfer portal. I think when we were transferring, you have to sit out a year, depending on where you were going in a situation like that. Right now, you can literally be a 3-year starter somewhere, transfer and pick up right where you left off, your starting spot, and coming with the bag, the money. So I don't think, like I agree with that. The resilience and where's the grit? You know what I'm saying? The things that are going to help you at the next level if you get there. So
because that grit and what you guys are talking about though, like a lot of these guys that get drafted, I don't care if you're a lottery pick or not, it's hard to play them. And so if you haven't fought through it at some level already, then it's really difficult, not just physically but mentally, right? So like that, I think it hurts them. The other thing I'd say, like since you saw both sides of it, what's the biggest difference between coaching at the college level and coaching at the NBA level?
I would say this: it's like the way I'd liken this to the conversation we're having right now. And what I mean by that is the conversation that we had when I was recruiting you guys, and you guys were 18 years old.
Yeah.
It's a lot different now than it was 25 years ago, right? And I almost like it as a parent, right? You have a child that's 8, 9 years old, and now you got a child, that child's 25 or 30. The relationship's different. So you're dealing with, to me, in the NBA, grown men that have experienced everything that they possibly could have experienced in the game of basketball. They've seen it all. They've been through it all. And then I think the college guys just haven't. And sometimes they're a little bit delusional because people around them are telling them what they got to do to get to the league, how much they're going to be in the league, where they're going to get drafted, and they have no idea. Whereas I think an NBA player is just so much more worldly and seasoned in the game of basketball.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So, question. When you decided to take the leap, Coach, the first opportunity, obviously, Orlando obviously didn't work out. OKC. Just give me a rundown on coaching those young guys to obviously where they are now. Did you see those guys? Because I'm obviously, they're Hall of Famers. But as young guys, did you see their careers? KD, 16 years into the league and what he's doing now. Did you see those guys' careers going this way? You can see talent, but talent doesn't always push you to the next level. It doesn't always. You can just stop. We've seen plenty of talented guys. Don't last a year.
In and out. Yep.
You can put it in the hole, but they don't last. Did you see these guys being at the level that they're at now and playing at this consistent high level?
Well, when I came in there, both those guys were Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, both those guys were all-stars, and the one thing I really appreciated was with those two guys, and even Nick Collison, who was a veteran guy, Nazir Muhammad was a veteran guy.
Nazir, OG.
Like, it was, I would say this, the most humbling experience for me was the first game I was coaching in the NBA. We were playing San Antonio, and I'm walking out there for shoot-around the day of the game. And I had to come to the realization that Kevin Durant knows a lot more about guarding Kawhi Leonard than I ever could tell him. And Russell Westbrook knows a lot more about guarding Tony Parker than I could ever tell him. And that moment made me realize that I had to work to catch up to those guys because of what they experienced on the floor. And also those guys' patient level with me, and trying to pick their brain and learn from them. Because I always think that as a coach, you can watch things in the NBA from the sidelines. It's a different experience when you guys are out there feeling it. You guys can provide different things. And I always tried to do that. But I never forget it, like one of our first games, and Russell Westbrook was great with this too. So there was like a foul in the lane, and there was a timeout. So it goes to timeout, and, I'm like 3 games removed from college, and I'm drawing up and underneath that a bounce play. And Russell says, Coach,
on the side.
Up here we take it out on the side. But like they would joke with me there on that stuff, and I think they felt like I worked hard. The one thing I loved about those two guys, and I tell a lot of players this, those two guys, and really the whole team and the organization in a lot of ways, even Serge Ibaka, all of them, but Kevin and Russell were in that gym, whether there was a game the night before or no game, at 8:30.
Respect.
Every day.
Respect.
Every day.
That's why they're where they're at, though.
And I think even for Kevin, some of the things that he had to deal with different injuries and foot, I think a lot of it's been with how hard he works. I've never seen him go
hard
out there and ever take a shot that's not a game shot. There is no messing around. He gets out there. It is total detail, focus, and concentration. And the same thing with Russell Westbrook. Like Russell, he would get to the arena on a home game like 3.5 hours before the game. And I always said it was like a great comfort thing is that you walk into the locker room before the game, pre-game film, whatever it is, that guy is going to be shot out of a cannon once the jump ball goes up, And I have great admiration for the way those guys competed, loved the game, and played the game. I wish in some way we could have found a way to get through Golden State and beaten them, but I was very, very fortunate to be around those guys. And then obviously, I think organizationally, helping me with the transition, the organization was very helpful as well.
Yeah, but it's a credit to you, though, too. Like, I'll be honest, coming from college and going in that situation, like, just the communication. Like you said before, like, they know better about how guarding Kawhi. Like, I have a conversation with NBA coaches now, even with their players, like, just communicate with them.
Yeah.
They're out there. They're in the grind of it. Like, if they feel something, believe me, it's worth writing down and understanding. Like, to me, that's why you've been able to do what you've done, because that transition's hard.
It's hard, and I think you have to have an understanding and a respect that, as a coach, you still can learn and get better, right? Sure. I really, this was like, you end up leaving and making the decision to go. And I never forget this, had a conversation with Jim O'Brien, who he replaced me at Kentucky when I left, and then he went with Coach Pitino to the Celtics, became the head coach of the Celtics, head coach of the Pacers, and we had a conversation on the phone, and he said, Billy, one of the things you're going to have to do is you got to figure out how to rely on the players because of their experiences. And he said, the mistake that you can make is not to go in there and listen to those guys, because they're the ones that experienced between the lines, and you can gather an enormous amount of information as a coach to help them, instead of coming in as a coach. Well, I'm the coach. It's my way or the highway. I'm not listening to anybody. Yeah. And I just don't know if that's wise. It's just, I think that you can pull and extract from a lot of different experiences to help me do my job, which is ultimately to put those guys in the position to be the best version of themselves. And in order to do that, you have to be able to, I think, have an open mind. And listen, there's times, UD, Mike, you're going to have disagreements on the scouting report.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And we should guard it this way. No, we should guard it that way. But like, if you have a good relationship and you communicate, you say, listen, we're going to do it this way. This is what I think is best right now. And you know what? If it's not working, we'll change. Yeah. You put your best foot forward to guard it. Or the other thing is, hey, listen, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Let's switch it. Let's do it your way. You got to work together like that. You're in a working relationship that you're both trying to get the same exact results, and that's a win. But you got to do it together. And the more information you have to talk things out, I think the healthier it is, and probably the better answers you're going to come up with.
Yeah. Speaking about winning, obviously we came up short when we were at Florida, which was one of the most devastating things ever.
Michigan State. Team Cleves.
Still hate it. But back-to-back championships, to me, is one of the most impressive things ever, because to me, college is more impressive than actually the NBA in a lot of terms.
One
because,
game.
Yes, it's one game. You're not at your best. Like, in the NBA, you've been in it, game 2, game 3 at their place. You can lose that and still come back and be fine.
That's right.
Like, we had our battles against Butler. We ended up winning the game. But to win back-to-back championships, to be able to bring those guys back and do that, talk about what the challenges were after they won it and then coming back the second time, because those guys all to buy in and come back. Again, credit to you guys and what you guys did at Florida, because that's not easy to do, to get them all come back. Because you did just blame me again before we got on here that I didn't come back.
If I can blame you for that, then I could take credit for some of the wins, because Coach let me talk to the guys and they came back.
He did talk to the guys.
He did talk to the guys. Oh, yeah. I got a couple of calls from UD. He wasn't happy with the way we were playing. Bring them in the office. They need an earful right now. Oh, yeah. It was funny, Mike, and it's kind of, there's certain players that I think are kind of cut from the same cloth. Guys that love the game, guys that are competitive and totally driven by winning and understand the sacrifice that goes into that. And you were talking about it, right? Like, it's all of your being that kind of goes into it, right? And I never forget this. We had lost in the first or second round before Joakim and Al Horford, Corey Brewer, and those guys were coming in as freshmen. So it was like their spring getting ready to be freshmen. And I went to Jersey. Joakim was at a prep school there, and I went there. And this was maybe like a week or two after we had gotten knocked out of the tournament. And this guy was like legitimately bothered that we lost. Didn't play in a game, wasn't part of the game, but it was like, I'm going here. And man, he was like so, upset. And I'm like, you know what? Like, that says a lot to me, right? And you guys know Vegas Summer League. Vegas AAU.
Yeah, yes. The big time.
I'm recruiting Al Horford, and it's in the semifinals. And they lose in a really close game. And coaches are there, and I'm walking out of the gym, and he's on the bleachers by himself crying in an AAU game. And I'm like, you know what? This guy cares. there's certain things that you can tell from people that really winning and competing is important. And the most amazing thing with those guys was they were 18-0 in the postseason. They never lost a postseason game in 2 years. And I do say this, like they have to go down as one of the greatest teams just because they started the season off 1 year totally unranked. And people can say, hey, they caught lightning in the bottle, they got hot. Then the next year they started number 1 in the country and then had to do it right. And the thing that was amazing, everybody thinks that we did something to get them back. The only reason they came back was because of Torian Green.
Wow.
Because Torian couldn't go.
Wow.
He was not going to get drafted.
Wow.
And they told him, like Joakim, Allen, like,
no man left behind.
That's exactly right. But they were like, this is it for you. Yeah. You get yourself in order because we're out of here after this year, right? I think the lure of trying to do it again for a second time, and then the fact that they felt like if they all left, Torian was going to be left there, unable to maybe realize his dream because the team wasn't going to be as good.
Amazing.
That's dope.
And I think it's like I remember him. Like people, probably a lot of times passed by, but like he took a lot less money at one point in time in his career to stay in Miami.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And you guys have all made. I mean, you have made financial sacrifices. You made distance sacrifices coming all the way from South Dakota to go to Florida. Like, there was things that you guys sacrificed for your own individual greatness and for you to win.
Hey,
and you guys made it.
We talk about it all the time because our teams that we did at sacrifice. That's the one thing after I came here and some of the stuff we went through. Like everyone always said, "Oh, you got to sacrifice." I told them, "Sacrifice is an easy word to say.
Yes.
If you know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
Right. But you got to have a belief factor in it.
Yeah.
Like if someone said, "Hey, man, you sacrifice. Okay, what's the outcome going to be? Oh, you're going to win 2 world championships. Oh, shit, I'll sacrifice all day long.
Of course.
But what happened when we sacrifice go and lose the first year in Dallas and we think we're going to blow it up?
Yeah.
Now I sacrifice for what?
Yeah.
So like that's where to me it's like it takes a special person to sacrifice, but to believe in the sacrifice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the outcome is.
You don't know you're gonna get that
like they
outcome
don't
that
know
you
what's
want.
going to happen. They don't know if they're going to win a back-to-back championship. Same thing we didn't know. Hey, Mike, you guys come here, sacrifice. You'll go from shooting 14 balls to shooting 4 of them.
But the sacrifice to me is it's not what you pick and choose. You want to sacrifice.
no doubt.
It's sacrificing what's important to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is important to me, but I got to give it up.
And the thing is, you never know when it's going to be your turn to sacrifice, when you're going to be that guy.
That's right.
You never know when it's going to be your night to have to pass it and be the sacrificer or whatever it is. That's what's always difficult to do.
Yeah, and you know this, UD. Like sometimes it's not always about like making an extra pass or taking less shots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, no, like you've got to be. This has got to be your role,
Yeah.
and you don't want to play that
exactly
role.
Right, no doubt.
And that role's not what I want, and I don't want to sacrifice that. But you may have to sacrifice it to win.
Same thing for all young kids coming out now. I tell them all the time, it doesn't mean it's who you're going to be 4 years from now.
That's right.
It's who you got to be right now to get playing time. Playing time is oxygen. Without it, you're dead.
That's
So
it.
figure out, okay, it's not who you're going to be always. It's who you're going to be now. And if you work and do all this stuff on your own, it's going to work out for you. But it's hard.
No,
Like,
it's
sacrifice
Well,
is
it's
hard.
like, throughout your guys' career, like that's what I think would happen to Udonis. Like I never forget it. So like, he comes into college and he's this dominant low post player, and then he realizes, okay, I've got to trim down and become this guy that can run and play all day long. And he goes overseas and totally changes himself and goes into a situation where he can totally reinvents himself. Like the level of sacrifice to sit there and say, you know what? Because he could have been hard-headed and said, you know what? I'm one of the best low post scorers in college. I'm not changing. Like he realized, okay, this is what I have to do, sacrifices I got to make to impact the team. And he's always looking at it too. And it's like the same thing you go into being rookie of the year.
Yeah.
In the NBA in your career, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm going to some of these different situations, and now I'm not the guy anymore, and the thing's not being built around me, and now okay, this is what I have to do to win.
No, it's tough.
Right?
It's
That's
tough.
why you need vets.
Yes,
That's why you need vets. Because I know when we were talking about OKC earlier, the first person you started speaking on, Nick and Nas.
Oh, geez.
I think even today, and that was a while ago, but even today, I think it's a loss art to have these vets and these guys in the locker room, just to, when it is time to sacrifice, somebody that can come to you, not a coach, because everybody understands what a coach is going to do. A coach is going to always say what's probably best for the team, but somebody that's going to come for you that you trust.
Keep it real.
Somebody that's going to sit next to you that's in the trenches, that works out with you, that goes through those things every day, that can have a conversation with you. Hey, I've been there before. I understand how this is going to go. But if you do this, and if we win as a team, then everybody wins. But you have to get that sometimes conversation from another player as opposed to hearing it from a coach or somebody on the staff. It just doesn't translate the same.
Well, it's interesting. Like I would see Spo sometimes in the summertime, and I would see him, and I would say, hey, how's UD doing or whatever, and he would always say to me, man, like, just what he meant inside the locker room,
for sure,
and what he did there, and just how unbelievable he was,
yeah.
And it's like sometimes people like get like the winning part's not that like being around you. And seeing the way your careers have taken off and what you guys have accomplished, seeing you guys at 18 years old, I'm not surprised. I'm not. Right? And I see
even when Spurrier called you and said, keep him away from my guys. You remember that call?
Was that?
You remember Spurrier called and said, keep him away from my guys? Yeah, I was.
No, but like competitively, like when you have these conversations, Udonis, never forget. You don't even remember this. Who was the big guy that we played in the NCAA tournament? It was Western Kentucky. He was a big
7-footer. I remember. I don't remember his name, but I remember the big kid.
He was like 6'11", a lottery 7
foot. Yeah, I remember that. I tried to pulverize him.
He's like so smart. He comes to me and he says to me, listen, he says, don't throw it to me in the post. He says, just let me run this guy up and down the floor, and the last 10 minutes, I'll have him drag in, and he says, then I'll go to work.
Hit him with the rope-a-dope.
Yeah, with the rope-a-dope.
He just kept on made baskets, running the floor. And this poor guy's trying to keep up for like 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden, guy had nothing left, and he's just totally working him. But like the same thing with him. Yeah, like the same thing with him, where everybody, he's in college, and they're all telling him he's got to get a 15 to 17-foot jump shot. He's got to work on pick and pop situations. And he's like telling me, like, yeah, it's all good. I'll do that on my own time. Play me how you got to play me for us to win.
Which, by the way, running him to death is hilarious if you knew where it came from.
Oh yes,
because coach, one thing we preached at Florida when we got there, and I had no idea what I was walking into, was we're going to be the most in shape, most disciplined team, right? So we did a 20 and 20, and I'll never forget our old practice facility had the cage around it. And we're doing this. I think this time it was like 16s and 16s, or it might have been 18-8, whatever it was. It wasn't to the 20 and 20 yet. And I looked back there one time, and just so you guys know at home, like 20 and 20 or 16, you have whatever the time is to your suicide.
20,
and then
yes.
the minute between that and the minute is when you have to go.
So
again.
you guys, like a forward was like 27 seconds. Yeah. You guys are 28, so you'd have 23 seconds to rest in between the next.
And then you got to run another whole suicide, people.
So going back to this guy talking about, Coach, I'm gonna run him to death.
That's your evolution.
Because it's evolution, brother.
Evolution.
Because when I turned back and looked one time, and you grabbed that cage, and we had 3 dudes trying to tear him up. That was the one time I knew I was never messing with UD.
That means the tank was empty.
Yeah, I was never messing with UD again. He looked at me like, I'm going to kill you.
I
said, dog, you got it, bro.
I emptied the tank. I emptied the tank.
But it's so funny he said you were going to run him to death. That just goes to show you, man, that's crazy.
Nah, I mean, 20 and 20 was my kryptonite.
That stuff
I don't ever want to see that again.
That stuff we did with 20 and 20. And then the track, too, man. That stuff was crazy.
Man. Yeah.
What was that track workout? The 200s and the 400s, man. I was like, what am I getting into?
I don't remember. Listen,
I want to shoot a jump shot.
Yeah, Coach, we came to play basketball. we knew Florida had a great track team.
Yes, you were part of it.
When I saw UD out there with that cutoff shirts and spandex, I said, we in trouble.
Oh, man. I tell you one thing, but I will say this. That's the part about it, that you got to push through it. And just because you don't like it somewhere, because it was times where I had to get my ass up in the morning and run too, because I wasn't passing the conditioning test, and I had to get up and run and take care of my part of it. Nowadays, are they doing that? No. If you just don't like it, are you going to leave?
That's right. That's right. And
is it too much? Is it too hard?
And there is something for fighting through something that's difficult and getting through to the other side.
Everything you want is on the other side of doing the hard shit.
That's right.
Everything 100%. You want in life is on the other side of doing the hard shit. If it's easy, you can keep that shit. I don't want it. I want it because there's something tied to it that's probably going to take your ass down later.
Coach, can we talk about how much Miami senior high cheated?
What? No.
First of all, let's talk
about who would have won, Miami Senior High or Popcorn Palace team. Popcorn Palace team. Oh,
The Corn Palace.
The Corn Palace. Oh, my bad. I call them the Popcorn Palace team.
Mike,
What was
I'd have
your
to
team?
sit there and say you guys would have had a hard time against the high.
Hard time. Hard time
against the
Man,
high.
I tried to
Hard
tell
time.
him I'd have
Listen.
came in the high.
Listen.
I'd have came in the high and been the mayor of that.
I
jump.
came to see Mike. I saw Mike play before I knew he was going to be my teammate at Florida. I was with the Florida Flash, and we were in a tournament, and I saw Mike play, and it was
It was
this
in
one.
Vegas, probably.
This is Vegas. It was this one team had all white guys, but it was one that was about 6'7", 6'8". The motherfucker rebound. He dribbled. He passed it to himself. He shot it. He got another rebound. Literally, he did everything.
to myself.
And I didn't know I was gonna play with this guy, but when I came back to Miami, I said, listen, I seen a unicorn. I seen the shit that they be talking about. I know I've never seen this before, because growing up in Miami, you got Latino, you got black. That's about it. I seen a motherfucking white boy that can go. This motherfucker has done it all. Not knowing you was gonna be my teammate at that time, but when I saw you play, I was like, this motherfucker is cold. Like, he was
Well, I
cold.
appreciate that.
No, he was cold. Nah,
That was
so
when
I'll give you
I
that.
first saw you.
I
in
saw
Vegas.
you.
It was in that tournament? That was the
Vegas,
same
yeah.
tournament?
I saw you. You were going.
Be honest,
into,
coach,
I
his
think,
team
your
wasn't that good. They stunk.
No, but
You saw his team.
They were not good. But here's what I would say about him. Actually, his high school coach was a great coach. You guys were really fortunate playing for Shaky and Frank and being around that, and then you playing for months. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys played for good
Oh, yeah,
coaches.
great
But
coach,
the one thing I always respected
That
about
was
him
a team
watching him
right
play, clearly, like I always found this amazing. Like, first of all, the first time I went there, they said, "Hey, he plays in the Corn Palace." I'm like, "What is that?" And this is like I'm talking to somebody. Yeah, the place is made out of corn. I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
He said, "Yeah, it's
popcorn.
like built out of corn, right?" But anyway. I'm watching him, and I'm like, how does a guy from Mitchell, South Dakota learn how to play like
Man,
that,
I
right?
couldn't believe it.
And then the other part of it was I always felt like him taking bad shots would have been better than some of those guys taking great
Yes.
shots. But he
Played-
always
yes.
played the right way.
Yes, he did.
He always played and if guy was open, he moved the
I
ball.
was
he
impressed
passed the
because I
ball.
would have
Yep.
definitely looked them motherfuckers off. I would have definitely looked some of them motherfuckers
Yep.
off for sure. No way, no how.
I'm glad it worked out because I'm gonna tell you right now.
And I always used to enjoy getting down to Miami High, especially when you guys had maybe like a little bit of practice down in the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing a
Fred?
blank. Not Fred. The two officials, John Goebel and Jason Goebel.
Yo, Jason.
I told him one time we were reffing, he called a foul. I thought it was a weak foul. I said, listen, they would have ran you out of the asylum if you were making calls in there like that, right?
I think they get more shit for going to Miami High than they do for being refs. Yeah, they get more shit for going to Miami High than they do for being refs.
They're great guys.
No, they
but
good dudes.
The one thing about like Frank would get really, really, really upset. There'd be a bad practice or whatever, and they would.
He would,
it would be
shut
on.
the lights off and kick us out the gym.
Yeah, it would be
Did y'all
on.
ever get kicked out the gym in South
we
Dakota?
did. Months was nuts.
Yeah, he would shut the lights off and kick us out the gym.
That's how it's supposed to be. Do your job. We got kicked out with it. Remember we came back.
If you do that nowadays, they'll transfer and leave you.
Yo, no, 100%. Who did we get beat by? Was it? God, I hate to even say this word. Did we get beat by Florida State and drove home and practiced one night? I can't remember. the time.
We. Yes, I think we did. You. I never forget this.
I was so mad when that
Yes,
happened.
we ended up. I think we ended up losing the game, and it was interesting. You were like, I don't even know what you were like. I'm just going to throw this out, like 215.
Oh yeah, terrible.
And I'll never forget this. We got back, and I got off the bus, and I went down to the office to grab some film and some other stuff, and all I heard was like the ball bouncing.
Oh,
And I walked up the stairs, and you didn't even see me. You had no shirt on and a pair of shorts on, and you were going up and down the court at like 2 o'clock in the morning, full court, getting shots up.
Man, listen. You know how many times I tried to get this man to come out to the club with me, and that man said, I got to go to the gym?
He'd stay in the gym.
He lived in the gym. He definitely lived. I had to learn. I was in love with competition and just showing motherfuckers that I could do something they said I couldn't do. That's what you tell me I can't do it, motherfucker, I'm going to show you I can. He lived in the gym. You know what I mean? From day one.
Yeah, you didn't like all the drills, but the minute there was score being kept, that was your time.
Yeah, as soon as it was competition.
Yeah, scores being kept right now. There's a winner and loser. I'm in. I'm in.
Yes.
All these closeouts and defensive shell. That's not for me. Okay. You want to keep score? I'm in.
So winner and a fucking loser. Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, I'm honest.
that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
That was
is
so
what it
fun,
comes
though,
down to.
man. I think, obviously, like I said, I'm glad it worked out. It was a hard decision. All kids have hard decisions, and that's where it's like, for me now, is like you just be thankful to make the tough decisions because you had all these things to make. I was fortunate to run into you guys and do this, but like it's worked out so well, and we're so thankful that you're here, but that you did everything for us to be here.
Yes, sir.
Because
I wouldn't be here without you guys now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So with the coaching part of it, you got to have great players and even better people. You guys were, I mean, I look at it this way. You could have gone just about anywhere in the country to go play. You could have gone anywhere in the country to go play. And the fact that you came, you know, and Florida, you like I said, you changed a lot of lives by you guys coming there, you know, all the way around, and opened up opportunities and doors for a lot of people. And, you know, it's crazy. Coach Grant still speak to all the time. John Pelfrey.
yeah, shout out to Coach Grant, Pelfrey, Donnie Jones, like
those guys.
Those were the real
All
OG.
those guys.
Y'all were the OGs
Yeah.
for real.
Yep, all those guys. So I, you know, keep in touch with them. You know, even Tom Olstrom and Tim Maloney,
Oh, yeah.
guys that were starting out. All those guys. So-
Tommy O.
Tommy
yeah,
T.O.
yeah. So I mean, it's unbelievable how much everybody's
Oh, yeah.
remained together and close after all these years.
Yeah.
You know,
we did it together. That's
Yeah.
why it's a family. But we appreciate you coming in, Coach.
My pleasure.
I know you got a lot going on, and
no, I love
going
the
to
both
Coach
of you.
Bowls.
Love the both of you guys.
We
to
appreciate
death.
you coming in. It's been
My
awesome.
pleasure.
Been awesome catching back up.
Great.
Tell the family, say what's up.
I will.
Love you,
Great.
brother.
Love you, Coach. Thank
You
you.
too. Love you, Coach.
Thanks, UD. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.